1, 2, 3.
Hello, welcome to Rock the Cash Bar. I'm Ben Mowbray.
And I'm Diane Gallagher.
Every week we pick one song and do a deep dive into the lyrics and explain the different ways they've been interpreted.
We will also discuss how the song connected to us on a personal level, focusing on all the embarrassing details.
Glad to have you here. Enjoy the show. Hello, Diane. Welcome to the Cash Bar. How are you?
I'm good. It's hot.
It's insufferably hot, and it's going to remain that way until October. Just deal with it, kiddo. You'll be all right.
Okay. I just don't want to go outside.
I don't either. How would you describe the way that you smell?
Oh, good question.
Mm-hmm.
Bad.
Bad?
Well, if you walked in this room, you'd be like, you smell great. I put on perfume for the podcast because I needed to lift my own spirits because I didn't have time. I'm watching my fucking kid all day, okay? He goes to school next Tuesday. God, get out of my house. And I didn't have time to shower. He made me go outside and paint stuff with spray paint today. I wasn't happy about it. It's muggy, it's gross. And I was putting this shirt on. I was like, my armpits stink. And I felt bad about myself. And then my hair's dirty, which is why I'm wearing a hat. So I'm just going to throw in a bunch of perfume and fake it.
Mm-hmm. You need to adopt a 15-year-old just to babysit.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I do have a babysitter coming tonight. We're going to leave the house and get out tonight.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Mom and Dad's night out? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Live it up.
What are you doing? What's going on with you? How do you smell?
Industrious Sleaze is how I'm going to describe it. I'm starting a cologne called Industrious Sleaze.
All right.
I don't know. I got great news from my doctor. I got a whole bunch of blood work done, just like a massive battery of tests. And I told him like everything but the horrible way I live my life. Yeah. And so he was giving me a long lecture about that. But then I got the blood work back yesterday, and he goes, "I don't know how to tell you this, young man, but you are an Olympic athlete." And he was like grossly disappointed. You know, like I don't think he was planning to retire on my medical insurance, but I'm sure that after the long lecture about my drinking and my smoking, he was kind of sad to see that everything was looking so good.
You're just reinforcing the idea that if we're skinny, we're going to be okay.
I think so. I'm sorry about that, everybody. I am far too skinny. I'm sick. I weighed in at like 143.7, which is ridiculous because I'm 6'3". So yeah, not healthy. But I don't know. Maybe he was just trying to get me to look on the upside. And so, okay, you got these twiggly little legs, but you got the heart of a horse.
There you
Thanks,
go.
Doc.
Well,
speaking of hearts of horses, we really bit off more than we could chew this week.
If I could have had this next week when I didn't have a kid I had to entertain, I was able to research this in 3-minute chunks. This is how it's been. He's home all week and like, okay, Diane, pick the greatest singer-songwriter of all time.
The guy with the largest cannon, the biggest reputation, the most mysterious and elusive personality in all of music. We're doing Bob Dylan this week. Yeah, that's too much. I've always been a Dylan fan, I guess is the best way to say it. Well, it's weird because I don't own any albums. I know only the greatest hits. Every artist that I am a huge, big fan of is a huge, big Bob Dylan fan. I've obviously talked to a whole bunch of people. I understand how the man looms over rock and roll music in America. I understand the position that he's in, but I've never really like grappled with him. I haven't spent long nights listening to Bob Dylan. I don't have, I've got affection for him, but there's no like single Bob Dylan song other than Not Dark Yet that I have like a real emotional attachment to. Like I'd listen to Not Dark Yet at the end of sad, long days at work and just feeling like I survived. It's not dark yet, but it's getting there. Like, yeah, Bob, sing it to me, buddy.
Yeah.
So I've done that, but I don't have categorical Dylan knowledge. I haven't read the massive biographies. I haven't watched the hugely long documentaries about him. I'm woefully unqualified to be speaking publicly about Bob Dylan, is what I'm saying. But I have arrogance built into the system, so I'm going to do it anyway.
Let's do that. Me too.
Mm-hmm.
And you said this before we started recording. Thank God there's so many lyrics, so we can just fill the time with the song lyrics, which is what the podcast is about. This is not a podcast where we do a documentary, rehash a documentary on the life, unless we're doing Elvis. Like we went
Yeah.
hard with Elvis.
Mm.
But there was a lot to Elvis. With Bob, like I'm gonna be honest, I fell asleep during the two different documentaries I was watching because they were dragging ass. And it
Yep.
was just a lot of like him performing in different things. And I'm like, no, 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 tell the story of his life. And I just don't think there was like a whole lot to tell. There wasn't like, he had a motorcycle accident and a brain injury and stuff, but other than that, there wasn't like the life that Elvis had. But
Mm.
what everyone loves about Bob, so everyone I've spoken to could not narrow down a song. I was like, give me your favorite Bob Dylan, and they gave me seven. And I'm
Yeah.
like, so yeah, we all are struggling here.
Mhm.
But it's great because it's all lyrics and it's good lyrics. He's a poet, and this is what I like. This is what I get my little chubby fingers like hooked into. So I'm happy with just getting into these lyrics.
I love you can clearly see him playing with rhymes. You can clearly see him playing with which line goes where. Like I really like the word nerdery of it is
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. We're gonna do "Shelter from the Storm," which is obviously a song that I've always liked. It's a love song to be sure, but it's elliptical, it's elusive, it's mysterious. I'm sure it means different things to different people, and that's no doubt the intent. But
Yes.
let's see if we can grab onto a thread and tear the whole sweater apart. "Shelter from the Storm." "'Twas in another lifetime, one of toil and blood, when blackness was a virtue, the road was full of mud. It's like Edgar Allan Poe, isn't it? Doesn't it?
Yeah,
Doesn't it feel like real, like proper poetry?
it
Like,
really
oh,
does.
give me that Rudyard Kipling shit, Bob.
Oh, it's so good. Like, let's get into some Gunga Din. Like, it really is. Oh, yeah, I'm all in this.
"I came in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Come in," she said, "I'll give you shelter from the storm." Yeah, that's what it's like when you first meet somebody, isn't it? Like there's that
Especially if you are in a down place and you meet a little ray of sunshine.
yeah, and I mean, that's obviously what's I mean, a lifetime of toil and blood. He came in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Like this is a battered and banged up dude. What do you think he's walking away from? Because it could, I mean, what there are all kinds of things that mangle men's souls. Booze, drugs, other women, violence, warfare, strife. What's this guy wandering away from as far as you?
When I read, I mean, so all of those things, all of them. But for some
Mhm.
reason, when I printed this out and just read them on paper as it was poetry, my brain went to war, like
Yeah,
a Vietnam vet.
yeah, it definitely feels that way. And it also like I don't know if it's because like it sounds like classic poetry, but it also feels like very medieval to me, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Like it definitely seems like he's riding on a horse or on some kind of carriage,
yeah.
stopping in at like the crossroads inn in some Tolkien novel. Like I don't know why it feels that way to me, but that's where my brain goes when I read it this way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, for sure. Like very almost Game of Thrones ish as
Yep.
well. Like very Renaissance. Like he came upon her like stone castle.
Yeah. "If I pass this way again, you can rest assured. I'll always do my best for her. On that I give my word." This is weird because from what I read about from the criticisms of the song and reviews of the song, they talk about how the verses kind of hop around in time.
Yeah.
I don't know that that would have occurred to me if nobody else had planted that idea in my head, but since they did, it seems like it starts right away in the second verse. Like obviously in the first verse he's arriving, but "and if I pass this way again," like he's
Yeah.
obviously seems to be leaving, right?
Yeah.
And then he does the dude thing that we've seen dudes in love songs do time and time again, dropping off a promise he can't keep. "I'll always do my best for her. On that I give my word." Like, oh, really? Give a ring instead,
Yeah.
dude. Like, I don't know. This is promises.
You were
In
always
a
on my
world
mind,
of
girl.
steel-eyed in a world of steel-eyed death and men who are fighting to be warm, come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. So it definitely feels very Civil War-y, doesn't it? You know?
Oh, it's all the war. It's it's a Braveheart. It's all the wars. Yes. Steel-eyed death. I pictured a like a sheath and a sword and like like clanking metal.
For
um
sure.
but also just the metaphor of steel-eyed death, of just looking into the eyes of a dead soldier. It could be any war, anytime.
Start of the third verse. Not a word was spoke between us. There was little risk involved. I like that. Like if you don't communicate, then nothing's at stake.
Oh, that's very hot and romantic. It's very Bridges of Madison County.
Yeah. It's straight up sexy. You know you want it, baby.
Oh, I love
Mangled,
Bridges of
road weary Bob Dylan knocking on your front door.
Dude, Bridges, I'm gonna go watch that. Bridges of Madison County when he is leaving, and then like she's been like so sweet and so warm and so giving, and then she's like, maybe we just fuck on the linoleum one last time, and I was like, oh, this is getting good. Oh, that's a good movie.
Naughty Meryl Streep.
Naughty Meryl.
Who would have thought of it? Everything up to that point had been left unresolved. Try imagining a place where it's always safe and warm. That line really stuck with me because it's easy for me to imagine a place that's always safe and warm, you know, my mother's dinner table, my home. Like I've got lots of happy places in my head, but that is not true for everybody. Like I wonder what his intention is. Like, is it because it doesn't sound like it's easy. Just the way he says, try imagining a place where it's safe and warm. Like, is it that this character doesn't have a place that's safe and warm? That he's so battered and mangled that he's forgotten what that's even like? Or is he just had the sort of life where it's just like, that's what you do? Like, instead of actually being in a place that's safe and warm, you just got to build it in your own head.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It makes it sound like he didn't have like a, most of us think of our childhood, most of us, of like, you know, you have that, your bedroom, your safe and warm place, your mother, your mother's arms, you know, grandma's arms, whoever. But this paints a picture that he never had it, and he only found it in this woman.
Yeah. And come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. That's definitely, I mean, obviously Bob Dylan's waxing poetic, so I suppose I can stray into that territory too. But it's such a, I mean, that's why he repeats it at the end of every verse. But come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm, is definitely the nicest way to put it.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, like when a woman invites you into her arms or into her bed or into her home or into her emotions, I mean, that's just exactly the way that it feels. Like, I will give you shelter. You don't, I think, I don't think I'm unique among men in that when I'm alone, my thoughts turn to dark things. They turn to selfish things. They turn to violent fantasies or sexual fantasies or things that don't serve me or anybody else any good. And it's only when I open my mind up or my heart up to somebody else that goes away. You know, it's like love is like the light in the darkness that sends all the ugly cockroaches in my brain scampering off into the corners and makes me feel safe and warm. I really like the way that he says it. And then she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. I think it's your own storm. You know, like obviously there's imagery there. You know, it's meant, you're meant to conjure up the dark and rainy night and the weary traveler coming in, but that's all poetry. You know, I think it's the storm that's going on in your head and in your emotions that he's seeking refuge with his new lover from.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, you know, I also can flip it where, you know, apparently women are always looking for that white knight to come save her, and women are we are very strong and we do have our shit together and we are the nurturers, but we are also wild in our heads. We have hormones and we can spiral out of control, especially if we don't feel like we have safety in a companion or feel loved. And we do want kind of the same thing. We want the big arms around us protecting us and stuff. So this song can go both ways, but you just never think about women in that way. Like you always think about them as being the nurturer, but you know, we need some nurturing too sometimes. And we need it in that sometimes manly way and sometimes like a little less just overbearing dude way. Like, can you just connect to your feminine side just a little bit and just like hold me and not try to like do it? Like, hold me. Damn.
Put your dick away and get your hugs out.
Get it. We do it all the time. Just put it away.
When you listen to songs like this, do you like sometimes put yourself in the male character's shoes? Like, do you change, like flip the gender roles around? Like when you listen to this song, do you think of yourself as the woman saying, come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm? Or do you think of yourself as the traveler?
But I do picture myself as the woman, and I can definitely see myself giving this. But like I just said, I can flip it in my mind too, as in like, don't forget we need this too, uh,
Yeah.
from you guys.
Hmm. I didn't think about it that way until we started talking about it. Like I never tried to put myself into the female perspective or into the, it doesn't even necessarily have to be gendered, but these are obviously you've got a weary traveler and then you've got somebody who has some love and support to offer. I only thought of it from the perspective of the weary traveler. I never thought of myself as being somebody who has love and support to offer.
Yeah,
Like,
think about a woman who's been down on her luck or divorced. The guy left her for a younger girl. She's got all these kids to take care of, and she's always having to do everything. And sometimes she's just like, can someone fucking take care of me?
yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
yeah. And sometimes you see it in movies, like, here comes that guy that's ready to do it for her.
Hmm. Like mama needs a spa day.
Yeah.
Burned out from exhaustion, buried in the hall, poisoned in the bushes, and blown out on the trail, hunted like a crocodile, ravaged in the corn. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm.
Hold on, are we in Louisiana or Iowa? Getting a little confused here.
Like, I don't know my reptilian, but I always thought that crocodiles are only in Australia. So I don't know if that's true. That's a true fact in my brain.
I think he's just picking from all the things of all the men and all the places of the wars, the battles, or it could just be
Yeah.
all metaphoric, of just like these are the troubles in your mind.
Yeah, I like how he's like tripling down on it too. Like the poet Bob is just like, I haven't finished telling you just how fucking tired this guy is.
All right, Bob, Jesus, I get it.
Reiterating, exhausted,
Yeah.
desperate, mangled dude.
Hold on, not done yet. Crocodiles. I what we haven't talked about yet is the structure of the way he writes, which I love. It's not he does not write the way other people write music. There's no chorus. It's just the same line at the end of every verse, which is
Yeah.
great. I love it.
And it works out and it makes it feel more poetic. They don't, like, when you're sitting down and actually reading Edgar Allan Poe or Yeats or any of those guys, they don't return to a chorus the way a song does. They're not trying to get to the hook.
Yeah, no. And
It's the rhyming scheme that repeats itself.
I appreciate it a lot more.
Mhm. Suddenly I turned around and she was standing there with silver bracelets on her wrists and flowers in her hair. She walked up to me so gracefully and took my crown of thorns. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm.
This is so 60s.
It really is. But it's that love at first sight kind of moment where you're just like, oh, look at her. Isn't she lovely?
This very like angelic flower child. This is, he's very obviously picturing the women of his time that he sees as very like free and flowy and the flowers in her hair. I love it.
Mhm.
Probably on a lot of mushrooms.
Yeah, and he obviously sees himself as something of a Christ figure,
Mhm.
a persecuted innocent man whose only crime was loving too much.
Yes. He has a lot of biblical, what I was reading is a lot of biblical imagery in a lot of his songs.
Yeah, mhm. Yeah. The crown of thorns is obviously, I mean, Jesus was wearing, but that's he. I mean, I don't want to get the Bible wrong, but as I understand the story, is Jesus was proclaimed King of Kings, King of the Jews, and in order to mock him, the Romans or the angry crowd placed a crown of thorns on his head. Like, okay, here you go, you're the king. Here's your bloody crown.
Such a
So
brutal time. Jesus Christ.
sure, but
Seriously.
that's what this lovely lady is doing for him.
Yep.
She's removing the wounds that have been unfairly placed upon his Christly head.
Yeah.
Now there's a wall between us. Something there has been lost. I took too much for granted. I got my signals crossed. Just to think that it all began on an uneventful morn. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. You can think about this song in so many different ways, and kind of the two really divergent directions that I was going in is, how long do you think this relationship he's describing is? Because I could see it two ways. I could see it being like a one night love affair, or I could see this being like the dissolution of a long term relationship.
I think we're meant to understand. I mean, yeah, when you're first reading it, it sounds like a one nighter or a week.
Mhm,
You know, he's in town for a week or whatever. He's passing through. It feels like he's passing through.
mhm.
But then, yeah, when you get to this verse, it feels like, oh, well, it takes time with someone to take someone for granted.
For sure. Yeah, you can't build a wall between yourself and somebody else overnight. That takes
No,
years.
unless you're a dick. I don't know. Yeah, that is it's a dramatic change of like, oh, they were together for a while. Okay.
Mhm. You almost wonder, like, is the traveler like talking about like perhaps two different relationships entirely? Like,
Ooh.
is this verse, if you take it poetically, that he's not literally some world weary and beaten traveler. Like if he is just a guy who's just like coming out of one relationship and then going into the next, you wonder if that's what these verses are talking about. Just
Ooh.
like after your heart has been broken and you're looking for comfort in somebody else, is that the one who says, come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm? Or is the line, come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm, the beginning of this long relationship that eventually scars the guy up? Like I
Yeah,
think you could.
I'm having fun now with the a dual story of like he was having hard times with his old lady and then he went to this new woman who gave him like comfort and then he's realizing he took his old lady for granted and
Yep.
he's talking to her now. I mean, I don't think that's what the song is about, but I'm having fun with the idea.
It certainly could be there. You can tell yourself that story.
Yeah.
Well, the deputy walks on well, the deputy walks on hard nails and the preacher rides a mount. So we're getting the law and the church involved
Yeah.
suddenly.
Dang, dude, what'd you do?
But nothing really matters much. It's doom alone that counts.
Oh boy, we're
Aye.
back. Oh, he's fun. Here we go.
And the one-eyed undertaker, he blows a futile horn. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm.
What does
What?
he have, a death sentence? What happened here?
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely this. It really takes like an old west turn there. I mean, the deputy's on hard nails and the preacher's on a mount. Are they coming up to this? I imagine it as like a little inn or a little house or a castle.
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing? Why are the authorities coming by? Has there been an assault?
Yeah, he's on the run because he murdered someone and she has sex with him right before they take him away to die.
Ooh, sexy. Mhm.
Oh.
Dead man fucking.
She was his last fling.
I've heard newborn babies wailing like a mourning dove, and old men with broken teeth stranded without love. Do I understand your question, man, or is it hopeless and forlorn? Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. It's not
Right.
getting any better for him.
No, I feel like he started this song sober and then like his drugs creeped in the longer he wrote it. And now where I'm like, I'm not following where your brain went because you're seeing shit we're not seeing.
He's just singing the verses over and over and over again
Yeah.
around the campfire one druggy night.
Yeah.
In a little hilltop village, they gambled for my clothes. I bargained for salvation, and she gave me a lethal dose of salvation. Yeah, buddy.
Wow.
I offered up my innocence. I got, what is the line?
Repaid with
I
scorn.
got repaid with scorn. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
No, me either. In a little
That's what I'm
hilltop
saying.
village,
His
they
drug
gambled
trip
for my
took him.
clothes.
Sorry.
I was just rereading it. I bargained for salvation and she gave me a lethal dose. Do you think she killed him? I mean, there is an undertaker, and now we have a lethal dose.
Ooh, yeah,
Mm,
maybe.
mm,
They okay. Now we're just making shit up.
Yep.
They're the guys. He killed somebody. He's a wanted man. They're coming for him, and instead of having to die the way they want to kill him, she's like, "How about I just kill you for them?"
Yeah, mercy killing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
save you from
fun.
the hangman's rope. Here, have a little bit of my salvation.
Yeah, she had sex
Mhm.
with him while feeding him copious amounts of opium. That's a good way to go
I like it.
out.
A little heroin after your sexo haul? Well, I'm living in a foreign country, but I'm bound to cross the line. Beauty walks a razor's edge. Someday I'll make it mine. If I could only turn back the clock to when God and her were born. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. That's a whole hell of a lot of regret right there.
Yeah.
If
Oof.
only I could turn back the clock to when God and her were born. That's how much he depends on her.
Wow.
I don't think he died. I think he's far away. Like I think it's looking back. I think it's definitely, to me, at least in my mind, it's definitely a song of regret, while acknowledging all the warmth and all the love that he regrets losing. I think it's when you read all the verses all together like that, I think of the relationships that I've had and I've lost, and certain like time and certain feelings, they get all jumbled up together. Like you can't think about it, you don't think about your emotions chronologically, you think
Right.
of them cumulatively. And I think that's what this song does so well, is it like it's not like a quick narrative structure. It does seem to bounce around in time, but it also bounces around in emotions. There's times where he's obviously deeply in love with her, there's times where he obviously feels like he's betrayed her, there's times where all he can remember is the exhaustion and the pain that he knew before he was with her. And I wonder if he feels like he's just going straight back into that exhaustion and pain. If
Maybe.
he's just like, I had a chance, I was out, like this was my glimmer of hope and I blew it.
Yeah.
Like
There's you can tell he's just going through a ride of like all the feelings he's had with this person. And all we get from him when he talks about this song is this song expresses the sadness of not knowing what you have until it's gone.
yeah.
That's all he says about it. We're like, oh, okay, well that helps. That helps the story.
I spent 11 verses on this one line. So, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? Thank
Yeah.
you, Joni Mitchell.
It's likely they say that Dylan wrote this song about his soon-to-be ex-wife, Sarah Dillon, going over a relationship that's about to end.
Yeah, as it's crumbling apart. A real a Polaroid of your silky, murky emotions. I read a quote from Jacob Dylan saying that he thinks that this whole album, Blood on the Tracks, is his mom and his dad having a conversation with each other, like as their marriage was dissolving. It's going to be a really difficult thing for him to listen to.
Oh, it really is.
No.
I was able to watch about like 5 whole minutes of a 60 Minutes interview he did in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And it was enough. It got me thinking. And so he's being interviewed by the guy, and the guy is talking about how he wrote Blowing in the Wind in 10 minutes. And the interviewer is just baffled by this. And we've seen this so many times. Like we know Dolly Parton wrote, I Will Always Love You and Jolene in the same day or whatever.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, just like, how, the interviewer's like, how'd you do this? And he's very like, well, I don't know. It just came out of that. And he calls it a wellspring of creativity. And then he's like, I don't know how I wrote these songs. It's like he says that it was like they were magically written. And he said that he could do it at that time, but he couldn't do it today. And it brought up all these thoughts in me about like youth and, when we're inspired, when we're younger, and being a creative type, like you're a creative type, we know it's not shocking that you can produce something great in a short amount of time. That's what happens when you're young. You get inspired by something and there's nothing blocking you from just like diving in and just working on that inspiration and that creative flow and getting it out. And you can just put your whole energy into it. But like when you get older and you can tell Dylan is just like, well, he wrote like 500 songs when he was in that creative flow and young and stuff and could do it. But when you get older, life just becomes more demanding of like your time and your attention. And I think non-creative types kind of lean into it. Like, okay, you get married, you have children, and they're like, okay, this is my identity now. This is what I do. But I think like creative types, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like it sucks a lot because like even just trying to research this episode today to put out a good podcast, like every 3 minutes I'm interrupted by my responsibilities. Like no matter how dumb and menial they are, I gotta let the dogs out because they want to go outside, or I hear the trash man coming and I forgot to put the trash can out, or my son wants to show me this whole thing that he built on the floor of my living room of a Cuphead boss battle fight. I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about. And when I have to stop what I'm doing and go listen and be an attentive mom, he takes 30 to 45 minutes to explain it because he's just making shit up as he goes. He's in this great creative flow that I want back. I was trying to be there and I can't do it because he won't let me. And
You've
then
stolen my muse, son.
I gave it all to him. And, you know, it sucks because I'm 44 and I'm still trying. I still want to matter. And then when I finally get time to myself to like do it, I'm exhausted and I'm brain dead and I've got nothing left.
Picking your kid up by his arms and saying, give mommy her groove back.
Give it back to me. This is very good what you're doing. It's very creative and I love it. Give it back to me.
You're just so like spitefully jealous of your 7-year-old
all the time. I hope you do really great things with this. I wish I had done it more when I was in my 20s.
Like if you're Bob Dylan, then you've decided, and he's quite right, that it's his job to write and reflect about the loves and responsibilities and the feelings that we all have. But I think as he gets older, he gets married and he has kids, he's going through the same thing himself, where it's just like you don't have time to write about love and responsibility because you're too busy acting on love and responsibility. You know, like he either has
went
to
from
get up.
theory to practice.
Exactly.
Yes.
So how do you keep writing it? Like, where do you find the time? Where do you find the space? I think that's the amazing thing about great artists like Bob Dylan is like they still have room in their heads to start cranking out this kind of good material, you know. And obviously, like, he's, you know, divorced and I think estranged from some children, and also you got to wonder, like, does he really have the emotional capacity to do it, or is he, you know, robbing Peter to play Paul emotionally in some places? I don't know. Like it's
Those who can't write
Titanic.
poetry.
Yeah. It's Titanic to me to think, reading that quote from Jacob Dylan, just really like how many of those, you know, great songs and great poetry and great films and great novels are there people that are very close to the artist that are just like, yeah, I remember when he was doing that and he was really an asshole. You know?
I think that's the sad reality is we're when we're doing our poetry and our art, we're writing our wishes, not our actuality.
Yeah. And in order to create something this perfect and this beautiful, you have to be obsessive. Like, it has to be an all-consuming thing, which naturally means you're going to be excluding your children and your spouse while you're doing it, you know. And they either accept that or they become resentful of it. And you can see it in both ways. I think we've seen, you know, spouses of rock stars who are happy to be the muse. You know, you think of Sting's wife, Trudy. You know, she seems very happy to be Mrs. Sting, you know.
Right.
But then you see like the trail of tears and divorces that are left behind by other guys. And just like, I guess it works. It's, you know, you're not looking for that. What am I trying to say? Like, it can go both ways for you.
Yeah.
You know, you either end up in this ideal relationship or you end up marching a road of fire and bones.
Yeah, I mean, this is do not get me wrong. I'm not comparing myself to Bob Dylan or anyone who's famous or very, very successful. But me and Jodie Fertig were talking about, like, when she came in town for the our reunion, and she hadn't done stand-up in a while, and she was like, I was distraught all day. I worked on this set all day, and everybody's like, are you okay in the house? And she's running around her house like scared she's gonna forget it. And I was like, that was me every time I had to perform. Say I'm working a weekend at the Joke Joint and I have shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was the worst wife and mother during those days, to the point where I was like, I know I need this to end too, because like I am like so focused on getting it right that my kid's like, I'm hungry. I'm like, get it yourself, like, me time, you know? And I'm just like, and it's another reason why I quit doing it so much, is I was like, I can't straddle both of these. I can't do it. I'm gonna be really mediocre at both. I have to pick one and focus. And I was like, you have to pick your kid, especially if you're mom and your husband. You know, you're like, I just can't be this shitty artist who's like so self-involved that I can't even like pay attention to my family because my art has to be perfect. I'm like, you can't choose that. You just, I mean, some people do, but I couldn't.
Yeah. I'm always amazed by people who don't go through that stressful moment before they go on stage or before they
I
perform.
hate them who
I
just
know
have it.
there's definitely some anger and jealousy in me about it, but I'm also fascinated by it because it's so foreign to me. Like I remember being backstage at comedy clubs, and you could just see the guy who just like he just literally cannot wait to get out there because he can't wait to go tell these jokes. He can't wait to go kill. And meanwhile, I'm sitting in the same green room, just going, I'm going to go out there and get killed. Like it's just like clearly it comes down to confidence and belief in yourself. But it just amazes me that there are people who are so confident in what they've written, so confident in their art. Like these people are going to love it. I'm always just like, these people are definitely going to hate me.
Those are people, Ben, who stayed in it longer than we did and practiced and
Mhm.
practiced and got the confidence. We didn't get far enough.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's
Yeah.
probably true.
We could have
Didn't
gotten
try
there.
hard enough. Yeah.
We could have gotten there.
Yeah. Confidence was 7 more miserable years down the road.
Yeah, for sure. But I will say there was one time that I was working a weekend at the Laugh Stop and I was sick. Like this was back when people got sick, like real sick, and they still wanted you to work, not like stay home, you germaphobe. I was like, did not feel good. And I remember not freaking out about these shows. I did not give a shit. I felt so bad. I just had to get through it. Best shows I've ever done.
Yeah.
The audience knows when you're trying to please them, and when you don't give a shit about them, they love you. And I just kept trying to tell myself, like, get back to that place. Stop trying to win them over so hard. Just do your thing that you wrote and you believe in, because it works when you just do it.
It's funny you should say that. I was talking to a friend about your boyfriend Bill Burr, and
Hi Bill, if you're listening.
This guy was telling me that he loves Bill Burr because Bill Burr doesn't give a shit what the audience thinks. And I was trying to explain to him, it's like, yeah, that's true, but that's not all of it. Like that Bill Burr was a headlining comic for 20 years before anybody knew his name. Like he spent night after night after night doing nothing other than giving a shit what the audience thinks. Like it was literally the only thing he gave a fuck about was what the audience thinks. And it was only after he got that damn good, after caring that much, that it looks like he doesn't give a damn at all. Like it's buried under all that experience and under all that effort.
Yes.
Or it's revealed by all that experience and all that effort is maybe a better way to put it. Like
I love his story. I love his story arc, like where he came from, his personal stories of like failed relationships, and like it's always like this thing where he looks like he hates women, but like marrying Nia and having children with her was like such a pivotal change in his whole life. And then he just gets better and better and better. Like he's my favorite comic.
I heard him once talking about the phase in his life when he wasn't like selling tickets, and back in the days before podcasts and before anybody knew who he was, when he's literally, they call it papering the room, where you're the headliner who's coming in, but it's basically you're performing to an audience who's there for free tickets. They won the raffle, chances of winning 1 in 1. So Bill Burr called it, those were my days of killing in obscurity.
That's great. That's really good.
I can't imagine what it would be like to first of all to have that self-confidence, but then to see it backed up night after night. I would imagine the way that a guy like Bob Dylan must have done in his early days, which is like, I know I'm a great songwriter. Bill Burr knows he's a great stand-up and a great performer because he can hear the results night after night after night. If you're getting these big booming laughs every 5 or 6 seconds, you are very good at what you do. So I imagine that's where that anger comes from. It's just like, I know I'm really good. I've been really good for 10 years. How come fucking no one has noticed me yet?
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole different kind of artistic frustration that I'll never understand.
Here's another thing about Dylan that it's kind of like, you motherfucker. Like, he's so talented. He's so talented, and his songs are so good, and he can't sing very well. That did not stop him. Like, in my time, I'm a pretty good writer, pretty good poet. I was pretty good. It never occurred to me to try to write music and sing because I didn't have a perfect singing voice, that I couldn't hit all the octaves. And that's the pressure I put on myself. But I'm like, why didn't I try? I could have taken singing lessons. I could have learned to play guitar. I could have done this and not have been a perfect singer. Madonna's not a perfect singer. She's not even that great. And she's like one of the most famous people in history, where I'm like, why do I put this perfection idea on myself when he didn't? He didn't. He's not a good singer. Why are we so hard on ourselves?
It's so weird. I'm scared to speak in public. I get nervous before we even record a podcast, but I'll still do it. Like I do have the confidence to do that, but I won't sing in public, not sincerely. Like I'll do karaoke, but like if
Same.
you ask me to sincerely sing a song in public,
Ooh.
no, I don't
Ooh.
think I'll ever get to that point. I just can't do it.
No, me
Mhm.
and you are the same. When we do karaoke, it's entertainment. We're trying to
Yeah.
be entertaining. And we've ruined some songs. You
Yeah.
and I on my birthday last year, we did Fairy Tale of New York, and Odo was pissed. Like he was like standing next to Corman, like they are ruining my favorite song. They are they're demolishing it. And we did it, we
That's
fucked it up so bad. We were so drunk and not like getting it together. It was great. But same, I sing seriously and trying to nail it in my car, like most people do, and when I'm home alone. But the idea of even when I like, oh my God, I got it, like that was good. I hit the note, I did it well. I imagine someone being like putting a microphone in a padded room around me and be like, go. I'll be like, no, no, can't. Nope.
I heard the best stand-up joke about karaoke a couple of days ago. It was this, I forget who the comedian was, but she said, I don't like to do karaoke, not because I'm afraid of you finding out I've got a bad singing voice. I'm afraid of you finding out I can't read.
That's really good. Really good.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's horribly dyslexic. Um, all right, what did we talk about in his life? We got to talk about something, right? That like his name is Robert Zimmerman. Should we bring that up?
And that's it. I'm done with Bob Dylan facts.
All right, his name is Robert Zimmerman, and you know everybody pretty much assumes, although he wouldn't confirm it, that he took his name from the poet Dylan Thomas, which makes
Um,
sense.
I'm sure he probably did. Hey, this podcast is about the lyrics to songs we like and how they make us feel and what they make us think.
Yes.
We're under no pressure to give you the biography of Bob Dylan. And while I did put some pressure on myself on Monday and Tuesday to try to learn some facts about the guy so that I could at least be grounded in it, I just realized that he's been doing this for 60 years. He's been doing this 20 years longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
And most of the people I talk to every day think of me as cranky old Uncle Ben. So,
Yep.
it would be ridiculous for me to try to get my arms around everything that Bob Dylan has done with his life in a week. So
Yeah.
I just did not try. I admire the guy greatly. The people that I love admire the guy greatly. Some of his songs, like I say, like Not Dark Yet, Lay Lady Lay. What a sweet come on, Lay Lady Lay is.
Yeah.
There's a good. We should have done Lay Lady Lay. It's 4 lines long.
Don't think twice, it's all right is like
Mhm.
the coolest fucking way to say goodbye to someone. The line, you just kind of wasted my precious time. I think my ex could sing that song to me because I
Yeah.
think he said those words like you just kind of wasted my time. And I was like, ooh, because he was not wrong.
The other song that I really wanted to do, we ended up picking Shelter from the Storm, but on the list of songs we were considering was Hurricane,
Yeah.
which is, I love narrative songs. Like as much as I like parsing, what the meaning is and looking for the poetry, and as much as I love it when song lyrics are open to interpretation, I also like it when they're real effing specific.
Yes.
And like Hurricane is obviously about, I mean, it's clear, it's explicitly about Reuben Carter, and it tells a story. It's like 8 minutes long. I don't know how many verses, but the first time you hear that song, you don't have to listen real closely to the lyrics because it's not Bob slurring his words or anything like that. He's speaking very staccato and very clearly because he's trying to tell you a story, and that story rips the whole way through. It's like watching a whole movie in 8 minutes, and the way that he uses words, just like pistol shots ring out in a barroom night. Like, I'm listening. What happens next?
Yeah.
Enter Patty Valentine from the edge of the hall. Like, okay, the screenplay is moving.
Love it. Love it.
Mhm.
Tell me a story.
Exactly, Bob. So yeah, I don't think we need to go back and we don't need to talk about it. Like, that's it. That's, sorry, if you're a Dylan obsessive and you were looking for some insights, you're not going to get it here.
There's
But
other podcasts for it, I'm sure. I'm sure there's like a
yeah.
whole podcast dedicated to Dylan. He wrote like 500 songs. I mean, you could do it. I do want to mention though that I did not know this at the time, and maybe we talked about it when so when we did Coldplay Clocks with Sean O'Brien. How great
Mhm.
was Sean? We gotta have Sean
He's
back
great.
on. God, he was funny. His guilty pleasure song was Steel Bars by Michael Bolton. Guess who helped Michael Bolton write that song?
Bob
It's
Dylan.
Bob Dylan. Isn't that crazy? I don't think we knew that at the time. We didn't. We just talked about how funny the video was and like steel bars from like, Michael Bolton. Dylan wrote that. Great bit of trivia. When I was almost like done scrolling, like, man, I don't care, scroll. And then I was like, wait, what? What? He wrote steel bars? That's so funny.
It's amazing to me how sometimes you find like these great artists are friends with people who you wouldn't consider great artists,
Yeah.
but it's just because they have that something in common. There must have, maybe there was just something about the sound of Michael Bolton's voice, or maybe the two men just got along great, and it didn't matter that they're got completely different reputations.
Yeah, it's so weird. You see it sometimes on like Facebook or somewhere where they show pictures of like two people hanging out. You're like, what? They knew each other? Like, what? What was that conversation like? It's great. Maybe they just
Mhm.
met at an award show or at a bar and got like crazy drunk one night and be like, oh my God, you're super cool. I don't know why I went country just then.
It blew my mind when I found out that one of Hunter S. Thompson's favorite drinking buddies was John Denver.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're like, get me in that room just to listen to how this happened and what you guys are talking about.
It makes sense. I mean, they're both Colorado boys, and they were
Okay.
both, like really, really hard drinkers. Like John Denver in more the, the quiet, brooding man with his whiskey, and Hunter Thompson, obviously the more bombastic, brooding man with his whiskey and his flamethrower.
I cannot picture that. I can't picture John Denver being a hard drinker. The country roads. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, he was very up and down with his AA.
Wow.
And again, I hate to, this is probably the 19th time I brought it up, but if I walk into your Walgreens and you're playing Leaving on a Jet Plane, I will start to cry.
No.
I will. I can't imagine what it's like for that poor guy's family and loved ones if they hear "Leave It on a Jet Plane." It's like I'm going to take the rest of the week off.
It's bad. It's not good. You should have never wrote that song.
Now it's a great song, and I'm glad he did.
I know.
I think we got to the bottom of Bob Dylan. I think that's it. At the end of Bob Dylan.
We're at the bottom of this song.
John Denver getting drunk.
Jeremy's busy this week. There's no 6 degrees of tinted windows. He says he'll be back. It's okay, Jeremy. Take your time. But I do have a deep cut. I don't know if you thought about this since last week. It's okay. It's okay. And like I said, we don't have to do it every week. It's just whenever you think of one, we can drop one. It's not even that much of a deep cut. Tons of people are fans of the Smith, and they play this on the radio. They play it on First Wave all the time. But it's another one of those songs that I always go back to and think about when it's my turn. I want to do a whole episode on it. But I don't know. I mean, it would be fun. Like, so you were saying you like songs that tell a story, but this one, my song, it's from the Smiths, and it's Stop Me if you've heard this one before.
Yeah.
Stop me, oh, stop me. Stop me if you think that you've heard this one before.
He tells a specific story, but is also still vague. It's one of these, I want to break down the lyrics so bad because I'm like, what happened? It sounds like he gets into a fight with his lover and he broke his spleen and he broke his knee, and then he really lays into me. He talks about drinking, so I had one, it became 4. When I fell on the floor, I drank more.
And so I drank 1, it became 4. And when I fell on the floor, I drank more.
It was a rough night. He ends up in outpatient care. He goes to the hospital, but the line is, nothing's changed. I still love you, only slightly, just slightly less than I used to. I love the song.
Nothing's changed. I still love you. Oh, I still love you. Only slightly less than I used to, my love.
So much, and it's such a toe tap jam. It's a dance song. Like if they play this song at numbers, I'm hitting the dance floor because it's got such a fun beat to dance to. But it's also so fun because you're like, what happened? Wait, I mean, he's like riding a bike and then he gets hurt and he gets in a fight with his lover, and then he's like, stop me if you've heard this one before. Nothing's changed. I still love you, just a little bit less.
I don't know why, why Morrissey is not more known for his sense of humor, or why he didn't do more with his sense of humor, because it's clearly there. Vicar to Tutu is also a very funny song.
Yes,
You know, there's-
there's so much funny in his music, and I'm trying to explain it to Corbin because when people don't know Morrissey, they just hear the melodic way in which he sings, and I'm
Mhm.
like, it's dripping with satire and humor
Mhm.
in every single song. That's why
Mhm.
people who love the Smiths love him so much.
Shoplifters of the world unite and take over. I mean, it's just a funny line.
So good. I was talking to Sarah Talamash about this song a long time ago, and we just love the little I just love you just slightly less than I used to because you kicked my ass.
I just emphasize it as only slightly less
Than I used to, my love. And he's so melodic. It just sounds so pretty and flowy. And I'm like, no, but listen to what he's saying. It's hilarious.
Thank you, Bob Dylan.
Thank
I
you,
really
Bob Dylan.
appreciate all of the work that you've done. I hope you're still out there touring. I know you're still out there touring.
Next week is a Patreon winner week. We are finally getting to Chris. I don't know if he wants me to say his last name. I try to just stay first name basis with our Patreon members. Chris was funny. He sent me about 30 songs, and then he'd narrow it down. Okay, you guys pick between these, and then he's like, nope, final decision, and he picked one song, and then he's like, nope, I'm back again, no, and I was like, finally he mentioned one, and I'm like, there it is, that's what we're doing, because we just talked about it. We're gonna do Fade Into You by Mazzy Star.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
I just literally talked about this song last week, and we were talking about songs that you can sing in front of a huge festival crowd and everybody just kind of shuts up and listens. I mean, it's one of those songs, and it's, Hope Sandoval, I think she has a very interesting life that we get to dig into, and it's such a pretty song, and it's such a sad song.
I'm looking forward to it. That's definitely that's a cry song for me. I'll stick
Yeah.
that on in the car when it's dark and there's nobody else out on the road.
Yeah. All
I'm
right.
not crying. You're crying.
I'm not crying, you're crying. I'll give you shelter from the storm.
Oh, Vogue.
1, 2, 3.
Rock the Cash Bar is produced by Diane Gallagher, music by Chuck Savage and Eddie Hawkins. Special thank you to Jeremy Essig for 6 Degrees and to Sarah Wessling for the Guilty Pleasures vocals. Our website is rockthecashbarpodcast.com, and there you can find links to our Spotify playlist and to our Patreon. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.